Today is Women's Day and August is dedicated to women's issues. As much as the Constitution has declared that our nation should be non-racist and non-sexist, we still have a long way to go when it comes to advancing socio-economic equality. We still have discrimination against women at the workplace, in the professions, and even culturally. Take marriage laws, for instance. Only recently, a section of the Customary Marriage Act was declared invalid by the Limpopo High Court. And this will affect the legal status of thousands of women who entered into customary marriages and will allow them and their children to share in the estates of their husbands. To discuss this and other legal challenges facing women today, I'm joined by Mosima Kekana, attorney and manager of the Women's Legal Centre here in Johannesburg. Kekana, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Tim.
Right, just quickly explain to me what this changes mean, you know, the fact that the Limpopo High Court declared a section of the Customary Marriages Act invalid.
This is going to benefit 1,000 of women in the rural areas. And you must remember that these women that got married in polygamous marriages before the commencement of the Act are probably old women who are in the rural areas, who are vulnerable, who don't have access to legal representation, who don't probably know their rights, who don't know that they're entitled to inherit property or have access or a share in land. So this was a very important landmark case for the centre and for 1,000 of other women out there, because this will mean that they will have access to inherit and benefit in equal shares on the joint estate of their husbands.
So it is retrospective or it progresses from now onwards?
It is retrospective.
And what is going to be done? I mean, it is hidden somewhere in the news reports. So what's going to be done to make sure that those who are going to be affected by the intention of this declaration by the High Court, how are they going to be made aware now that they now enjoy full status of fully married women?
We must first remember that because this is a constitutional issue, the Constitutional Court needs to confirm it first.
Yes, okay.
And after the Constitutional Court has confirmed it, then the centre and various other organizations will take it upon themselves to raise public awareness, particularly in the rural areas, about this new development of the law.
Okay. Now, this is but one example of certain parts of the law and access to justice that face women, right, that may still be prejudicial or discriminatory against women. Are there instances that come to your mind?
There is a lot of instances. Women are faced with a lot of challenges, and amongst the big challenges that we have is gender-based violence. Women experience a lot of gender-based violence, and when they go to report it at police stations, they are told to mediate the situation, go home, talk about it, and so on. And as such, women are wary of reporting these cases because they just think nothing will be done for them. So there is a lot of cases. There is a lot of sexual harassment in the workplace as well. And women are wary of reporting such cases or taking it further because of access to resources. They don't have resources for legal representation as the big companies would have. They don't have, remember when you go to court, it's a lot of money and sometimes you'll be out of your job. So that's why a lot of these cases are unreported. But there is a lot of gender-based violence. There is a lot of sexual harassment in the workplace. We also struggle a lot with women that come to report their husband's estate, but because of this case that has just been, this judgment that we have in Limpopo, hopefully we'll be able to remedy a lot of the situations.
But here's the point. I mean, we talk about gender-based violence and something that we should all abhor and speak out against, right? But that's more the cultural type thing. It's got nothing to do with law. It's got to do with human behavior in social settings.
It has got a lot to do with law because remember, if if my husband has beaten me up, for example, it's a criminal case. A
Yes.
criminal charge must be opened.
Yes.
An investigating officer must investigate, forward to the prosecutor. The prosecutor must decide whether or not to prosecute. So there is a lot of
Sure.
legality.
And I will come to the law. I want to
Yes.
stay a little bit with the extent of violence against women in the nation. It's still too high, isn't it, at
It
this
is.
time?
It
And
is.
what do you attribute that to? I mean, it's something that is discussed so openly, broadly, repeatedly in South Africa, yet it does not seem to come down. Why do you think that is the case?
Because of, I personally think it's because of lack of successful prosecution. People are wary to report such cases. People are wary to follow through such cases because they just think people will not be prosecuted. They will not be, and even when people are prosecuted, sometimes judges do not make gender-sensitive judgments. So that's why a lot of people are still wary to go and report these cases and follow through. And because of the court role is so full, it takes time.
But you know, in certain family situations, when women are abused or exposed to violence in their own homes, the families themselves discourage them from reporting these matters to the police, isn't it?
The families themselves, it starts even when you get married, Tim.
Yeah.
Even when you get married, the elders will advise you that if you've got problems, don't share it with your friends.
Yes.
Keep quiet and do whatever, but don't share it with the friends. So it starts there. The society, our mentality also needs to change, that if a person is being abused, they need to come out, they need to talk about it, they need to report it, they need to follow through and ensure that these cases are prosecuted. And if cases are not prosecuted, it is my right as an individual to write to the DPP and request for reasons why they declined to prosecute. But people don't know that they have these rights.
How much of public education do you think we need in South Africa in terms of the new attitudes we must adopt, notwithstanding our cultural backgrounds? You see that it is totally unacceptable and wrong to continue to treat women in this fashion.
There is a lot of work that needs to be done. There is a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. Unfortunately, organizations such as Women Legal Centre can only do so much.
Yes.
Organizations such as 1 in 9,
Yes.
Twaranang, and so on can only do so much. So there is a lot of, I do agree with you, there is a lot of work that needs to be done.
A few days ago on Saturday, when the president spoke at the IEC, 4 young women stood up and held up placards which were in protest against rape and abuse of women. What did you make of that? What is your view?
Our main concern is not successful prosecution or not. Our main concern is how matters are dealt with in incidents such as this. Because a lot of times when there's cases like the Kwezi case, victims are the ones that are victimized. Victims are the ones that are cyberbullied. Victims are the ones that are badly spoken about. So we need to create a culture. We don't want to create a culture of impunity or entitlement. We need to create a culture where leaders are responsible for things that happen. So like I was saying, that we want our leaders to be role models. We want our leaders to be able to talk openly. If something is wrong, leaders must be able to talk about it in an unbiased manner and fashion.
Okay.
So our main concern is how issues are being dealt with.
Now, talking about women as victims and their access to the justice system, there are issues there and concerns as well, right? Tell me more.
There are issues there. There is a lot of women who are now aware of their rights, but we get a lot of queries from clients that want legal representation. Remember, we have those clients that have no income that will qualify with your legal aid and other pro bono organizations. But we have individuals that are middle income, that have an income but don't have sufficient income to pay for legal fees. So we get a lot of clients that seek legal representation. But unfortunately, Women's Legal Centre, we do litigate, but we do public interest litigation, and we do strategic impact litigation, meaning litigation with the intention to change the law as it is. So, yeah, we have a lot of challenges with women knocking on our doors saying, I don't qualify for pro bono, I don't qualify for legal aid because I have a minimum income. So where do I go? Because I also can't afford legal representation, which is very expensive.
What are the typical cases that are brought to the legal center by women that actually highlight some of these challenges that you've just mentioned?
The typical cases would be where people are evicted. For example, if we were married in terms of customary law and my husband is deceased and there is no proof to prove the marriage because we don't have a certificate, and if the marriage is unregistered, a lot of women struggle with those issues. A lot of women struggle with assault and sexual harassment in the workplace. So,
But looking at the way our society is evolving, are we making progress in putting women's issues at the forefront as well as recognizing their rights and also affording them the respect that they deserve?
We are making good progress. We are making good progress. It's just that our concern is legal representation. There's very few law firms, there's very few legal professionals that are willing to take matters on a pro bono basis. So that remains our big struggle.
And of course, the urban-rural difference as well, the divide between urban and rural women, I would suspect is also a key issue for yourselves.
It is a key issue. But as I'm saying that, there is a lot of organizations that do groundwork. For example, Women's Legal Centre will go to the urban areas, we go to the rural areas, we have offices in the urban areas. So we are easily accessible to women in the urban areas. We are also easily accessible to women in the rural areas. So, yeah, that is an issue. People do know their rights. People are aware of their rights, but enforcing their rights remains an issue for us.
Mosima Kekana, thank you very much for talking to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Well, tonight and today being Women's Day, we have a special for you. We will be talking to other women in a short while.